Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues to blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So the Washington Commanders are playoff bound after an epic overtime victory, 30-24 over the Atlanta Falcons in Week 17. It's a lot of fun watching this game, much like the game last week against Philadelphia was a lot of fun to watch. We saw two really good young quarterbacks square off in that game on Sunday Night Football. I thought the day of football was more or less a dud, right? We got to watch all of the games, and none of them were really, truly super competitive start to finish. And then that game happens on Sunday Night Football, and it made the whole day leading up to the game worth it, right? All of that waiting for that, and it paid off with a massive victory for the Commanders as they punch their ticket to the postseason and win their 11th game of the season, the first time that they've won 11 games or more since 1991. And we're not done yet, still have one more game left. Dan Quinn talked about how they're going to approach that game, and we'll discuss that when we get to his Victory Monday presser. But as a fan, I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about going to the playoffs. I jumped up and down like a little kid on Christmas Day when that game was won. I picked my son up in the air and twirled him around, and me and my wife and my son were jumping up and down, and it was just like this feeling of, all right, here we go. Like, this is the beginning of something special, right? Like I said, it's never like this again. The first time is always it's the time where you enjoy it the most. Like winning never gets old and it never gets boring. But that first time, and we just popped the seal, going to the playoffs. This is what we expect every year now. Like, this is the standard. Playoffs, winning the division, competing for Super Bowls. That's the goal. Like, this year, I'm not saying we're happy to be here because we want to do damage, right? But it's the part about getting there. That was such a big deal for us because we didn't see this necessarily coming before the season started. There were some of you that thought that this was possible, but most of us didn't because we were being realistic about the situation that we were in. We had no idea that Jaden Daniels was going to be one of them ones. At least I can't speak for you. I didn't know he was going to be one of them ones. And so when he turned out to be, one of the best quarterbacks in football, it changes everything. It expedited this process. So, here we are. Like I said this earlier on the day after reaction, if you remove Jaden Daniels from this roster, we are a 3-win football team right now. That is the importance of Jaden Daniels. You could argue that he should be in the MVP conversation for the things that he has done this season and how valuable he is to his team. But again, when you got one of them ones, you're probably having the same conversation. The Baltimore Ravens aren't the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. The Buffalo Bills aren't the Buffalo Bills without Josh Allen. The Cincinnati Bengals might be winless this season based off of how their defense has played without Joe Burrow turning in a heroic MVP caliber season, right? So again, you understand, like the Eagles. So the Eagles won yesterday with their third string quarterback going in and playing well. Like, they can continue to win without Jalen Hurts, right? I think you see the value in a Jalen Hurts, but the Eagles wouldn't be a 3 or 4 win team without him. That's a well-built roster, okay? This is not, because we're in the infant stages of turning this thing around. But Jaden Daniels' presence has expedited this process exponentially because of how good he is. And so last night was another example of his greatness. And we're just basking in it right now. This guy is just phenomenal. And it's a lot of fun to watch him play football. It really, truly is. But let's get to the keys to victory, right? Because I thought we did some really good things in the game, and then I thought we did some really not so good things in the game. And obviously, DQ talked about those things. We'll talk about that when we get to his press conference. But I want to start with the offensive keys to victory. Um, the first key was rev back up the run game, right? We had been kind of down in the run game department other than Jaden Daniels. And I wanted to see this offense get back to its roots of running the football successfully, not just with Jaden Daniels, but also with the running backs themselves. And we did that. Now, again, a large chunk of the success on the ground came from Jaden Daniels. He was our leading rusher. He continues to be the team's leading rusher, 127 yards on the ground for Jaden Daniels in this game. But Brian Robinson Jr. had 60 yards on just 13 carries, right? So that's over 4 yards a pop. And then you got some contributions from other guys. Olamide Zaccheaus threw in a nice little run on the jet sweep. And you also had Chris Rodriguez throw in. When it was all said and done, this team ultimately ran for over 200 yards in this game. So I said 160 was the goal, right? I needed 160 rush yards or more, and we got over 200. So we continue to show, and again, a lot of it Jaden Daniels, but we continue to show why we are a top 5 rush offense in the NFL. The next one was protect Jaden and the Duke. I said I wanted no sacks. The Falcons were one of the worst sack teams in the NFL, or not one of the worst team at sacking the quarterback. And they weren't a big takeaway team. And that's not who we are. We don't turn it over very much. So I wanted to get back to who we were. Last week, obviously, with the 5 turnovers, that's not indicative of who we've been this season. So wanted to see us clean the slate, be clean with the football, and also wanted to see us be clean from a sack perspective. Neither one of those took place. Had a devastating interception thrown in the red zone, and then also had 5 sacks that Jaden took. But those were, I don't know if there's a such thing as 5 good sacks, but the 5 sacks that he took were good sacks in the sense that they weren't a lot of these, oh man, instant pressure, he never saw it coming type of sacks. He had one of those off the backside, and then another one where you were like, whoa, where his leg bent backwards because Brian Robinson Jr. got blown up on a protection. But the other 3 were those him escaping through the A or B gap and somebody just, retracing their steps and falling into him and getting a sack that way. And then, once he ran out of bounds 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which, we always say, hey, don't do that. But a lot of the sacks happened with him trying to escape, which he ultimately did a bunch of times. So it was worth it. But obviously, I said all of that to say this. We got no points there. We didn't get the job done. 5 sacks is 5 too many, and the 1 turnover was 1 too many. And that we got to be cleaner with, obviously. The next offensive key was start fast, finish faster, and be proficient on third downs. So I was looking for 17 to 13 points, anywhere from 13 to 17 points in the first half. We did not achieve that. The Falcons did, but we did not. However, I said I also wanted to see 30 or more points by game's end, which we hit 30 on the head. I knew it was going to take 30, right? Which is why I set the number at 30 or more. And then 45% or better on third downs. That's our average on the season, 45%. We were 6 of 13. That's 46%. Check mark again. And so I gave us a check. Even though we did not hit that first half quota, we finished the game even faster, than anticipated. Last week, we got out of that fourth quarter, woe that we were kind of suffering from, scored 22 points and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. This week, we outscored the Atlanta Falcons 23-7 in the second half, and outscored them 16-7 in the final frame and overtime. So we finished a lot faster than Atlanta did for sure, and really dominated the second half of this game. And so I gave us a full check mark there. And then the final offensive key, score in the red zone and be explosive. I said we needed to have at least 4 trips into the red zone, and we needed to go and score at least 3 touchdowns. 3 of 4 is what I said. We ultimately were 4 of 6 in the red zone, so we were outstanding getting there. Like to see us be even more proficient than 4 of 6. But again, you go to the red zone 6 times and you score 4 touchdowns, you're going to win a lot of football games in this league. And then I said I wanted 5 plays of 20 yards or more. Now, we had some explosives. Jaden had a big run. Ertz had a big catch and run. Olamide Zaccheaus had a couple of plays that hit for like 15, 16 yards. We had a Chris Rodriguez catch for like 12 yards. We had a John Bates catch for 14 yards. So we had, and then I also have to throw this in there. Jamison Crowder, even though he bobbled a punt, and he makes me a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you. He had a 22-yard punt return, which was huge as well. So I thought they did enough in the explosive category to flip field position, to make things happen. And so I gave us a full check mark there as well. So you go to the defensive side of the football and the defensive keys. And the first one was slow down Falcons rushing attack. I needed them to have less than 125 yards on the ground and less than 4 yards per carry. That didn't happen. Now, I will say the total rush yards, not bad. 126 given up after it looked like we were going to be gutted on the ground. They really, really got it together in the second half. And there was a Ray McLeod jet sweep in there that, got like 14 or 15 yards that really helped get them over that 125, but barely at 126. So I was happy with that. If you would have told me, hey, Falcons going to have 126 yards rushing, I would have taken that, which is why I set the number at 125. So, but the yards per carry is still a problem for me. We gave up over 5 yards a pop. And so we have to clean that up. They were getting too many yards on carries and setting up very manageable second downs, which is why the Falcons were able to score despite not being proficient on third downs, which takes us to another defensive key that we'll get to later. But they were able to move the ball successfully because they didn't get into enough third downs. And when they did get into those third downs, they weren't successful. But because they were able to win on first and second downs, they found themselves being able to move the ball without actually being proficient on third downs. So I got a half a point there, half a point for, because we pretty much held them to that 125 I was looking for. Force Michael Penix Jr. to look like a rookie and in over his head. I wanted to sack him 4 times, and I wanted him to turn it over once. We did not make him look like a rookie. He looked like a poised veteran out there. We didn't sack him 4 times. We only sacked him twice. Now, he did fumble both of those times, but we didn't make him look like he was in over his head and over his skis. But we did get the 1 turnover we were looking for. So I gave us a half point there. The next defensive key, win on third downs and in the red zone. I wanted less than 40% on third downs because that's what they've been this season, a less than 40% third down offense. They were converting at 38%, and we were holding teams to 38% on third down. So I like that number for us. And then I said I wanted them to be 50% or less in the red zone. Well, we held them to 2 of 10 on third downs. And I'm pretty sure most of you out there are math majors, and the numbers just hit you like that. That's 20%, right? So that you masterfully did your job on third downs. And I know you guys are mathematicians, so this isn't hard to crack either. They went 3 of 3 in the red zone, so not quite 50% now, is it? Right? That's 100%. Okay, so we didn't get the job done there, and we had opportunities. Literally, they had a ball snapped over Bijan Robinson's head for a 21-yard loss, and they were at the 5 when it happened. So it was 2nd and goal from the 26, and they still found a way into the end zone. No excuses for that, but it happened. So they get a half point from me on that particular defensive key because we did win on third downs, but we did not take care of business in the red zone when it mattered the most. And then finally, finish strong. Finish strong and ball is life. I said hold Falcons to 7 points or less in the fourth quarter and produce at least 1 turnover in the game. They did both of those things. They got the 1 turnover I was looking for, and we finished the game strong defensively. Not as strong as we would have liked, right? But that second half was huge because we were down 17-7 at halftime, and they only scored once in the final, frame of the game, or the final 2.5 quarters, because we played overtime as well, but they never saw the ball in overtime. But it got dicey there late, obviously, with the touchdown they gave up, and then ultimately almost giving up that game-winning field goal. So it was a little dicey, but ultimately they held those Falcons to just the 7 points, and that proved to be the difference in the game. So full point there. So you get 3 points on the offensive side and 2.5 on the defensive side for a grand total of 5.5 points. Like I said, you can win with 5.5. You can win with 5.5. It's going to be a little tough, and that was a tough game, and it went to overtime, and that's right about what you're going to get, with the penalties and the mistakes that we made, jumping offside or being lined up offsides when they were kicking a field goal that gave them an additional 4 points because they ultimately went down the field and scored a touchdown instead of settling for the 3 points. Like, those usually are mistakes that get you beat, and it almost got us beat in that game, and we got to be better in those types of situations, but ultimately we got it done. So let's transition to in other news, where we heard from head coach Dan Quinn with his Victory Monday presser. It was roughly 20 minutes long. We'll get into what was said there. But before we do that, let's take a look at the snap count this week for both the offensive and defensive sides of the football. Of course, we start on the offensive side. A lot of snaps here, guys. 83 total snaps in this ball game offensively. And, it's always good when you see about 6 of the same numbers of snaps from the 5 offensive linemen and Jaden Daniels. Well, of course, that wasn't the case in this game. You only see 3 offensive linemen with 83 snaps and then Jaden Daniels, so that's a problem. That means 2 of our offensive linemen didn't make it through the entire game, and we know those 2 were Tyler Biadasz and right tackle Cornelius Lucas. So 83 is a lot of snaps, but we did incur some injuries in this game. McLaurin, as he always does, had the most snaps played of any skill position player on the team outside of Jaden Daniels at 68 snaps. Olamide Zaccheaus followed up as your number 2, starting across from Terry with De'Ami Brown's absence at 63 snaps, played a hell of a game. Michael Dieter came in relatively early for Biadasz, so he played 61 of the 83 snaps. Zach Ertz played 55 snaps, a lot of snaps for him, had a huge impact on the game, obviously catching 2 touchdowns, and had the biggest catch and run of the game of any skill position player, which we hadn't seen that from Zach Ertz all year. Cornelius Lucas played 49 snaps before exiting with a groin injury. We do not know his status right now, but again, the beauty of having the playoff, berth cinched up is that guys like Cornelius Lucas and others who may not be 100% can be allowed to rest and get ready for the postseason run. Brian Robinson played 45 snaps, Bates 43, Trent Scott 35 after coming in for Cornelius Lucas. Jamison Crowder played 34 snaps. Jeremy McNichols, huge game for him, 22 snaps. Luke McCaffrey, 22 snaps. Biadasz, 22 snaps before exiting. KJ Osborne in his first action, 19 snaps, did not touch the football, did have a penalty on a screen where he held, but good to see him get on the field and become a part of this team. We'll see if he remains active as other guys get healthy. Chris Rodriguez, a big 18 snaps for him. He was very impactful in this game, had a big catch in overtime as well, and the big touchdown run in the 4th quarter. Bryson Tremaine, up from the practice squad. I saw him on the field quite a bit. 16 snaps for him. Ben Sinnott, 8 snaps. Chris Paul, 1 snap in the game. So Ben Sinnott is the one that I look at and say his snaps have been going down here of late. And again, some of it is due to personnel and the team you're playing against and how you're electing to go about your business. But you just think it'd be more opportunities for him to get on the field, and there just hasn't been. And some of that may be they're going empty a ton, right? We're seeing more and more empty here of late, allowing Jaden to kind of operate in that space. And there's no space for Ben Sinnott when you're going empty. So there is that. Let's get to the defensive side. 64 total snaps, and you see that they're starting to lean on certain players more and more, because this number used to be 100% used to only be reserved for Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner and Chin and maybe Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin, right? Now you got Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, Bobby Wagner, Mike Sainristil, Noah Igbenogany, and Frankie Louvu all playing 100% of the snaps and not coming off of the field at all. That's 6 guys that they look at and say, you are our glue guys. We can't have you off the field in any capacity. Michael Davis played 49 snaps. He was awful last night, but I mean, what are we gonna do? I never thought we would be in this position where we had people clamoring for Benjamin St-Juste to be back in the game. I'm not one of them. I'm good on Benjamin St-Juste, but I will admit the coverage was awful. Guys were wide open. Davis wasn't even close, and somebody said he damn near killed himself on the first play of the game when he tried to make a tackle. So I'm glad he was able to come back, though. I was a little nervous that he wasn't going to be able to come back, but man, we need cornerback help in the worst way. And again, hopefully Marshawn Lattimore will return and we'll be able to get him back because, boy, we need it bad. Deron Payne, 48 snaps. Dorrance Armstrong, 42. Dante Fowler Jr., 41 snaps. Johnny Newton, 30. Of course, we knew his number would come down with Jonathan Allen being back. 27 for him as he works his way back into the fold. I expect that number to double next week, and he'll be up there around Payne's 48 next week as he gets more and more acclimated to getting back on the field. He knew it was going to be on a pitch count. They weren't going to throw him out there, and he wasn't going to play 45 snaps in his first game back. But 27, good number. We'll see if that increases next week. I expect it to, if they decide to play him against Dallas, which I don't. Right now, it feels like that's going to take place. Sheldon Day, 18 snaps. Benjamin St-Juste, 15 snaps. Jalen Holmes, 15 snaps. Percy Butler, 13 snaps. Cleveland Farrell, 12 snaps. And Javonte John Baptiste, 10 snaps in the ball game. So those are your snap counts. Nothing looks too, off here from a defensive standpoint. But the one that stands out is Michael Davis playing 49 snaps. That is a dead giveaway that they really don't want Benjamin St-Juste on the field. Really, a lot of Benjamin St-Juste's snaps came when Michael Davis got injured early in the ball game. He had to come out, and that's when Juice was in. And then I think he got in once more when we got closer to the goal line one time, or they did, right before halftime. But Juice, they don't really want him on the field. And it's clear that he won't be here next year. Neither will Michael Davis. That secondary, specifically the cornerback position, will have an overhaul come next season. Anyway, let's talk about what DQ had to say, and then I'll get to my major announcement that I have for you guys. So DQ talked about the win. He talked about Jaden Daniels and his poise and the speed that he said, I'm really feeling his speed here. Like when he got injured, that was one of the things that kind of went by the wayside a bit, was his ability to really turn it up. And he's like, it's back, which we've seen now. The Eagles game, this game, the speed is officially back, and he's a problem, right? He talked about Jaden, not only running, but also running to be a passer. And he did it multiple times. The throw to Zacchaeus for the first touchdown, the throw to Zach Ertz when he escaped to his left and found Ertz for the big gainer. So he was using his, legs to extend to be a passer for the second consecutive week. He did it against Philadelphia as well. So he's getting more comfortable in that space too. And that's beautiful to see. He talked about, guys stepping up in their roles and being selfless. He said the thing that really got him, fired up about the brotherhood, because he said, I don't want it to be a cliche. And he's like, that's what he's most excited about with this team, is that the brotherhood that has been established and created, it's legit. And Marcus Mariota, my wife was like, I wonder what he said. Well, the clip is out on social media with what was said from Marcus Mariota to Jaden Daniels. And it was pretty dope because I remember seeing it happen in overtime when he was super tired. Like he could barely stand up because he was so gassed because he was doing everything on that overtime drive. And Marcus told him to stand up, catch your breath. Trust your fundamentals and your God-given abilities, and go out and win the game essentially. And that's what Jaden did. And so he's like that's a pretty cool moment, and that lets him know the brotherhood is strong and really alive in the locker room. He talked about winning time moments and this team stepping up, and they're getting more and more comfortable being in these close games and in that environment. He's like the stadium was rocking. It was a cool environment. They really felt like the stadium and the fans gave them juice. He told Raheem Morris, like, hey, you did the best you could, but it ain't really nothing you can do with five. Hey, like you can't replicate that in practice. He's a different dude, which he is. Um, he talked about the penalties. Like, we can't have that. We really hurt ourselves with penalties, and he's like, we got to tighten up. The penalties were a problem. Obviously, I talked about the Mike Sainristil penalty on a field goal. That can't happen. Lining up offsides, taking a three off the board, and then having them score a touchdown and make it a 7. That's a big time penalty in a game that you almost lost in regulation. Like, you could have won had they settled for 3 there instead of ended up with the touchdown. So just little things like that you can't have. He talked about some of the penalties, like the Sam Cosmi one, where when you're pulling a guy down or you're chopping their arm down, and so he kind of went through all of that stuff. But he talked about the biggest thing that he said was, he was asked about approaching next week's game against Dallas, and you're in the playoffs, you got guys that are banged up. How are you going to approach it? And he's like, we understand that we got momentum. We are the 6th seed. We'd like to stay the 6th seed, and we see what the task at hand. Right? We understand that we got to win to keep that 6th seed, and we'd like to be the 6th seed. So we're going to go after it pretty hard. Right? So what he essentially said is they're going to do everything within reason to win this game. And so I would expect everybody that's healthy to play, right? If you got any kind of ailment, you won't. But if you can go, you go. And the goal is to, get Dallas up out of there as quickly as possible so that you can sit some of these guys. But, ultimately you want to get it done, right? You want to be the 6th seed because you'd rather go to L.A. than have to take on the Eagles for a 3rd time. So that's the preference. I mean, who are we kidding? So I think you're going to see us go after it pretty aggressively this week and try to get to 12-5 on the season, which would be a hell of a first year for Dan Quinn and company, helping turn this thing around. So that was the gist of DQ's presser. And so I told you guys I had a major announcement for you. And I've been waiting. I've been hoping that this moment would come and this opportunity would present itself. But shout out to my guy Twan, man, over at the Hilltop. So we've been in the background kind of working on this for a little while, hoping that it came to fruition, and the moment has finally come. We've made the playoffs. We've clinched a playoff berth, and we're going to have a watch party. We're going to have a real legit watch party in Richmond. And right now, I think, are going to have 250 people that can attend, right? But we may be able to stretch it depending on the demand, right? But we're going to have a watch party, and we don't know exactly when the game is going to be yet. We'll find out next week once the playoffs have been solidified. But we do know it's going to be January 11th through the 13th. And my guess is we'll be either playing Saturday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. Like, I just can't see them putting Jaden Daniels on at any other time than one of these night games. So my guess is going to be Sunday night, or Saturday night. I think we might be on Saturday night against the Rams. If we get the 6th seed. If we get the 7th seed and it's the Eagles, it'd probably be Sunday night. So either way, we're going to turn up. We're going to have us a ball, and win, lose, or draw, we're going to hold it down, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to celebrate like we just won the Super Bowl, right? Like, it's going to be a time. So I want all of y'all to be a part of it, but I always got to take care of my mob members, right? So how we're going to do this is we're going to open up the ticket registration, or the ticket sales to the mob first, right? So I'm gonna put out a special code, link rather, in a message to mob members. So make sure you're looking for that. If you're a part of the mob, doesn't matter, bronze, gold, silver. I'll send out a message that all of you will be able to receive. That will have the link to where you can go and reserve your spot if you want to be a part of this watch party. I will also be broadcasting live from there. It's gonna be a vibe. We're gonna turn up. We're gonna have food. We're gonna have drinks. We're gonna have everything. So it's gonna be a time, and it's a road game, obviously. So everybody's looking for a place to watch the game. Well, we're gonna watch it together. So I want y'all to be a part of it, but I'm gonna open it up to the mob first. And if all of the tickets get gobbled up by mob members, great. If not, and I think we're gonna go with about maybe 48 to 72 hours of initial initial ticket sales, right, for the mob. And then if we don't sell out by then we will open it to the general public then. But we're gonna start off with the mob, because y'all hold me down, I'm gonna hold y'all down. So if we sell out with the mob, then that'll be it, and it'll just be mob members there, right, holding it down. But if not, then we'll open it up to general public, and then I'll put that link out for everyone to be able to utilize it and get involved. So that's the major announcement. We'll figure out like all of the specifics, but it's going to be in Richmond. So if you can attend, great. If not, no worries, right? You'll be able to watch it, but you're going to be missing out on the time, right? And this is, I hope that as many of you come as possible, because this is like, to me, sort of a taste of what you're going to get if you attend the DR trip. Like, this is just a small little sliver of what that trip is going to be. The DR trip is going to be on a much grander scale. So we're going to have a lot of vendors at this event. You can sign up for the DR trip while you're there, and we'll have all kinds of stuff available. It's going to be like a big party. Literally, it's a party, but we really going to turn up. So hopefully you'll be able to attend, and we can watch the game together, turn up together, go live together. The post-game show, we're going to do it from that, location and all of that good stuff. So hopefully you can be a part of it, and we'll open that up to the mob first. And then if we don't sell out, then we'll open it up to the general public. So with that said, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. All right. And we're getting close to the new year. So, this is going to be another weird week. So it's going to be a little bit disheveled, but you already know what it is, man. It's the new year, and we got a hell of a Christmas gift and a happy ass new year, right? But we ain't done yet. We ain't done. All right, but December has been flawless. Now we need to take that same energy into January and keep the good times flowing. So until next time, I'm your man, Louie T. Again, if you're a mob member, check your messages. You should see the link. If you want to purchase a ticket, that link is going to be the way that you do so. And we'll be keeping track of how many people are going to be there, so we'll know if we need to open it up to the general public or not. But mob members, you get the first crack, and it's just another way of me showing my appreciation for you guys holding me down. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. See you guys next time. Have a good one. We go into the offs. We go into the offs. We go into the offs. We go into the offs.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down.